This has to be the scariest intro of all time.
35 fights, 35 victories, including 32 wins by knockout, including 22 consecutive KOs, and he has KO'd every opponent he's faced over the last 8 years. This Olympic medalist from Karaganda, Kazakhstan, is the reigning, defending, undefeated, universally recognized, true middleweight champion of the world, Gennadiy Golovkin, a.k.a. Triple G!
But before fame, before big shows, before millions watched, he walked into small arenas and made a name for himself with power, precision, and sheer dominance. Back in May 2006, he turned pro, and what made that start unforgettable was the consistency. After just a few fights, his knockout streak had begun. He wasn't sparing time or energy. By the time 2008 rolled around, he was already viewed as one of the top upcoming prospects in the world. When people think about power punchers or feared middleweights, a lot of them picture the big-name fights. But in those quiet early fights, Golovkin was already building his legend. And this period mattered. This is where the problem started. This is Gennadiy Triple G Golovkin. Before the lights, before the belts, before the hype. Welcome back to Boxed In. Gennadiy Golovkin was born in Karaganda, Kazakhstan in 1982, a hard-working mining city where toughness was a part of everyday life. His father worked in the mines, his mother worked in a lab, and life wasn't built around luxury. As a kid, Golovkin was big into sports.
First playing basketball and soccer, just, big interest for small child.
But the spark for boxing came at home, gathered around a TV with his older brothers.
I remember I watched TV, my brother liking boxing. My older brother liked boxing, just we were watching TV every time. Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, and Sugar Ray Robinson, Leonard, Mark Hagler, just a lot of great names.
Life, however, changed quickly. In 1990, he lost his brother while serving in the Russian military. 4 years later, the family suffered the same heartbreak when his other older brother, Vadim, was lost in action. Those losses hit the family hard, and the weight of responsibility shifted to the two remaining boys. Both Gennadiy and Maxim started boxing, and both were talented enough to compete in the Russian amateur scene. But the family needed stability, and only one of the twins could continue the journey toward a boxing career.
It was decided when Gennadiy is the oldest by 15 minutes. It was decided when they wanted to turn pro that one of them would stay back and take care of the family.
В то время, в советское время, в Казахстане, нужны были деньги. И на нас двоих, я не скажу, что мы там с бедной семьи, но с рабочей семьи не было спонсорства или не было денег нам двоим ездить на сбор. Я так думаю, желание и умений на тот момент у него уже, может быть, стало больше немножко.
He's big support for me, and more like extra attention, like different, like brother support, Yeah, I hope Max, he is proud of me.
Golovkin carried their legacy with him from that moment on, fighting not only for himself, but for the brothers who never got the chance. Golovkin turned that responsibility into results. His dedication in the gym paid off fast, and he earned a place on Kazakhstan's national boxing team. In 2003, he became a world champion at the amateur level by winning gold at the World Championship. A year later, he stepped onto the Olympic stage in Athens and earned a silver medal, proving he belonged at the top of the sport. Those achievements gave his family hope and gave Golovkin a clear path forward. Boxing wasn't just a passion anymore. It was his future. Once Triple G stepped into the professional ranks, the first real sign of what he could become showed up against Ciare Navarca. Golovkin didn't ease into the pro game. He went to work early, pressured him, and broke him down. It was clear, even then, that his power wasn't ordinary for a newcomer.
Gennadiy Golovkin.
Next came Martins Kukulis, another opponent who didn't have the tools to slow him down. Golovkin stayed sharp, stayed patient, and took control of the fight the moment he found his rhythm. It was the kind of performance people shrug off at the time, then remember later when the star finally breaks out. Jorge Ariel Garcia was another stop along that climb. Garcia came in tough, but Golovkin's talent showed right away. He stayed disciplined, used his timing, and handled the fight without giving up momentum. Nothing flashy, just a young fighter doing exactly what he was supposed to do. Then came Sylvain Gomis, and again, Golovkin looked like someone with years more experience than his record suggested. His punches had weight, even the simple ones. Everything looked controlled. Everything looked deliberate. You could tell these early rounds were shaping him.
Sieger durch K.O. in der 4. Runde nach 1 Minute. Aus Hamburg, Spotlight Boxing, Gennadiy Golovkin.
Against Amar Amari, the pattern continued. Golovkin didn't rush, didn't swing wild, didn't lose focus. He boxed with a calm confidence that didn't match his young career. Little by little, he was building a reputation. The kind of fighter who didn't overlook anyone and didn't waste time in the ring. John Anderson Carvalho de Souza stepped in next, and Golovkin handled him with the same steady pace. No matter the opponent, he stayed locked in. You could see the polish from his amateur years mixing with the patience of a professional.
Як постійно працює тулубом бразилець, було чутно, як Магомед Шабуров каже, що не поспішає. Хоча вже видно, що Головкін готовий добивати супротивника, і він це робить.
Mikhail Makarov was one of the early tests people thought might push him a little.
За сильнейшей правой рукой Геннадий, левой рукой. И, наверное, больше. Ох, смотрите, да, и упал сейчас Михаил. Будет сейчас, конечно, Геннадий Головкин.
Instead, Golovkin controlled the tempo again and made the fight look straightforward. He wasn't just winning. He was showing that his style translated perfectly into the pro game.
Уже третий раз на полу. Вот сейчас опять видим, смотрите, справа очень жесткий удар на полу наказа.
By the time he moved past these names, one thing was clear. Golovkin didn't need fame, a belt, or a spotlight to show he was dangerous. Anyone who shared the ring with him in those early days learned quickly that the quiet kid from Karaganda wasn't here to participate. He was here to rise.
He punched so hard, man. He punched through the headgear, man. He has freakishly unreal power. You can't even implement your game plan because he hit so hard.
Was the consistency of it, you know what I mean? Every punch, his power didn't dwindle. His jabs, he just felt like you've been hit with a right hand.
Like, literally feel like he has something in his glove. Even like sparring partners, they're like, bro, like we block him, we got the bruises all in the arms the next day. He's sparring with bigger guys, he's still hurting them.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. Every punch he throws is a hard shot, even the jab. Abel's like some sparring with big guys. That's why we down here. I'll fight at 75. He fights at 68. He likes to sparring with big guys. Smaller guy can't handle his punching power. Take care? No.
Golovkin's U.S. debut came in 2012 against Grzegorz Proksa, and it mattered immediately. This was his first time fighting in front of an American audience, his first time on HBO, and his first real chance to show that his reputation overseas wasn't inflated. From the opening rounds, Golovkin controlled the fight. He stayed patient, kept Proksa under pressure, and slowly broke him down. Proksa showed toughness, but the difference in power and control became clearer with each exchange. In the 5th round, Golovkin finished the fight.
Good left hand to the body and left to the head.
Body shots hurt him to get him started. Then he tried to exchange with a...
Hurt Proksa. Golovkin steps in and down he goes again.
Scoring a stoppage and making a strong first impression.
This is your debut on American television on HBO, first fight here in America. How do you feel after this kind of a performance?
You know, it's my dream now. This is my dream in fighting on HBO, and at America.
The fight with Curtis Stevens showed a different side of Golovkin.
I believe Abel was writing checks that Gennadiy can't cash. Come Saturday, I'm going to Gennadiy up.
I have just one question. Are you serious right now?
Stevens came into the fight confident and dangerous, believing his power could change everything. Early on, he tried to test Golovkin and see if he could earn respect. Golovkin stayed calm and didn't rush. He let Stevens throw, stayed balanced, and started landing clean shots as the fight settled. The pressure kept building, and Stevens had less and less room to work. In the 2nd round, Golovkin landed clean and dropped Stevens.
Left hook. Down goes Stevens. There it is. Cossack Thunder in round number 2. And Stevens doesn't look all that good as he gets up.
Stevens got back up, but the tone of the fight had shifted completely. The pressure kept building, and Stevens had no room to work. By the 2nd round, Golovkin had taken full control. The punches were heavier, the exchanges were one-sided, and Stevens had nowhere to go. The referee stepped in and stopped the fight. It wasn't about one moment. It was about control, timing, and steady damage.
Triple G Golovkin.
Against Marco Antonio Rubio, Golovkin showed there was no let-off point in his game. Rubio was experienced and durable, but durability only lasted so long. Golovkin stayed on him from the start, landing clean shots and keeping Rubio under constant pressure. There were no wild moments, no unnecessary risks. He simply kept breaking him down until the fight was stopped. It was another night where the result felt inevitable. The fight with David Lemieux was supposed to answer a big question. Lemieux had power, Lemieux had momentum. Some thought this could be dangerous.
Every step is bigger. Every step is bigger, better and better. He's a strong guy, dangerous guy. You know, everybody knows this. And everybody knows my style.
Gennadiy is always a gentleman outside the ring until someone says something that he feels is out of line, rude, uncalled for.
You want a street fight? Let's go. I show you.
Instead, Golovkin gave one of the most controlled performances of his career. He shut Lemieux down with the jab, took away his offense, and punished him round after round. Lemieux never found his rhythm, never found space, and never found an answer. By the time the fight ended, there was no debate. Golovkin wasn't just powerful, he was technically superior. The Kell Brook fight came with criticism. Brook was moving up in weight, and many questioned the matchup. Golovkin didn't concern himself with that. From the moment the fight began, the size and strength difference showed. Brook had moments of courage and tried to box, but the pressure wore him down quickly.
1 minute left in round number 2. Something here. Brook seems to have...
Brook let's not get too brave, but smart enough to fight a smart man fight.
Golovkin's punches did damage every time they landed. The fight ended when Brook could no longer continue, and Golovkin moved on without hesitation. It wasn't personal. It was business.
In the far corner is holding up a towel. Engel is trying to get referee Marlon Wright to stop the fight.
Every fight followed the same pattern. Golovkin took control early, applied steady pressure, and broke opponents down without rushing. The power showed up whether he threw hard or not. Even his jab wore fighters down. Once he had their respect, the ending felt inevitable, and that stretch didn't slow down. From 2008 through 2016, Golovkin stayed undefeated and stopped every opponent he faced. 23 wins, all 23 of those fights by knockout. He would quickly find himself a victim of his own success.
February 1st, you're fighting yet another opponent that's tough, but not well known.
Top 5 middleweights don't seem to give you much competition. Top 10 middleweights seem to offer almost no resistance at all.
Triple G was struggling to get fights with top names in the sport. And whenever his name was brought up, it was met with uncertainty.
Gennadiy Golovkin is sitting here ringside. Do you have interest in that fight?
After all, it's boxing. Why risk a perfect record and all your belts when promoters are offering big money to fight lower-level opponents? That's why we often see fighters with all the talent in the world, but records that don't quite match their potential. In Golovkin's case, finding an opponent was difficult. Few were willing to risk their belts, and even fewer were willing to risk their pride, because a fight with Golovkin usually ended the same way. But one man was willing to take that risk.
In 2005 in Guadalajara, Mexico, at the age of 15, he turned professional. 6 years later, he won his first world title. Here is boxing's biggest attraction, the pound-for-pound king, Saul Canelo Álvarez!
Is there anything that scares you, Canelo Álvarez? What frightens you?
Nothing about boxing. No, this is what I love.
So the fight was set. The two best fighters in the division, Triple G versus Canelo. Many already called it the fight of the decade, and it had the boxing world split down the middle.
Okay, upcoming fight.
Triple G if he go to the body. I already know what you're gonna ask me.
Okay.
If Canelo box him and stay off the ropes, Canelo may get the decision, you know, but Triple G if he go to the body.
Triple G.
Why?
Well, because Triple G he one of them guys. He's very aggressive, and he got good defense, but he got power in both hands.
I think Golovkin is getting a little older. He's got miles on him. I think Canelo is going to make the adjustment and show a different side.
You know, Triple G's my friend. I like him. I know him really well. But I would have to say Canelo. I think Canelo's a younger, fresher fighter right now.
Golovkin came in as a slight favorite and promised to give fans a real fight, saying he would stand and trade with Canelo, embracing what he called the Mexican style.
A lot of fight. I'm a fighter. You know, this Mexican style is my style, you know, because a lot of drama, a lot of big show, this big present for fans, for everybody. You know, this is Mexican style.
With his skill set, it made sense. Golovkin carried a heavy jab that stunned opponents, a chin that could handle the hardest shots, and the conditioning to keep pressing forward without slowing down. He walked fighters down until they broke, backed by sharp ring awareness and a relentless dedication to training. Even though Golovkin represented Kazakhstan, his approach in the ring mirrored the Mexican fighters of the past.
Canelo, what about you? For so long now, you've been criticized for not fighting Triple G, as though you would duck a fighter when you were telling everyone all along, your promoter said this is the way the business needs to get done. Now that you're going to fight Triple G, what would you like to say to your fans?
Yo nunca le he tenido miedo a nadie desde los 15 años que peleó profesional.
I've never feared anyone.
Cuando nací yo ya se había repartido el miedo.
When I was born, fear was gone.
Canelo started the fight well, using his movement to stay off the ropes and avoid being trapped by Golovkin. But after a few rounds, that movement began to fade, and Canelo found himself backing up more often, spending long stretches along the ropes while Golovkin stepped in and let his hands go. Canelo still had strong starts to most rounds, but after the first minute, his activity dropped. That's when Golovkin took control, pressing forward and landing far more consistently. That pattern repeated itself throughout the fight, Golovkin pushing the pace and Canelo responding in bursts. By the final rounds, Canelo began to find some rhythm again, but the damage was already done.
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards after 12 rounds of boxing. Adelaide Bird scores it 118 to 110 for Canelo. Dave Moretti scores it 115-113 for Triple G. And Don Trella scores it 114-114. This is officially a draw.
A draw almost always gets booed. It shouldn't be that way, but it is disappointing on both sides.
There is no way you can watch this fight and see 10 rounds for Canelo Álvarez. That scorecard submitted by Adelaide Bird is one of the biggest embarrassments that I've seen.
I had it 115, 113 for Triple G, but the reality of the situation is that this has been tarnished by a judge that clearly had no business judging the fight. They didn't know what the hell they were watching. They weren't watching a boxing match tonight that everybody else, millions on pay-per-view and thousands in attendance, were watching.
118 to 110 for Canelo. Officially a draw.
We have a problem with one judge's decision.
There's money to be made in the casino business, but there is an oversight board to make sure there's no corruption. There's no oversight board in boxing.
The two met again a year later with tensions higher than ever. This time, the fight played out differently. Canelo chose to stand his ground and go toe-to-toe with Golovkin, giving fans the Mexican style that had been promised the first time around. The result was a back-and-forth fight where both men were forced to constantly adjust, trying to outthink and outmaneuver each other. Unlike the first fight, Golovkin was the one who finished stronger. Late in the bout, he began landing his jab more consistently as Canelo pressed forward, looking to answer with big counter shots. The fight delivered on its build-up and was noticeably more action-packed than their first meeting.
Él pretende ser una buena persona aquí, te muestra una cara y detrás es otra, esa es la verdad. Una persona tiene que ser como eso, en donde quiera que esté y quien esté, y él no lo es.
If you're really a boxing fan, you know who is the real champion.
4 years later, after continued success in their divisions, the rivalry returned one final time. Golovkin and Canelo met again to close the chapter on one of boxing's defining matchups. This time, Golovkin's age began to show, and the fight never reached the intensity of their first two. He stayed composed and fought with experience, but the speed and sharpness that once defined him were harder to maintain. Canelo controlled more of the action, stayed disciplined, and limited Golovkin's opportunities to press the fight the way he once had. The bout played out at a steadier pace, with fewer swings in momentum. Golovkin had moments, but the fight never truly shifted.
Still the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world, Saul Canelo Álvarez.
Golovkin's loss to Canelo stands as the final fight of his career. But for true boxing fans, his legacy was never defined by those results alone. Golovkin is remembered as one of the most feared men the middleweight division has ever seen. A fighter opponents tried to avoid for years. He carried a knockout ratio of 88.1%, the highest in middleweight championship history. Outside the ring, he was quiet and family-focused. For many, Golovkin felt like the last true successor to marvelous Marvin Hagler, another middleweight who ruled the division with toughness and intimidation. Golovkin wasn't just a champion of his time. He was a throwback to the greats who made the sport unforgiving.